Not. I think that Iron Man One is the most perfect film to start the MCU. I mean, uh, it was a crazy because I mean I know that like a lot of people take like our DJ's past into like why did this role was so amazing, but I mean I was a kid so I didn't really know. Um, to me, like as a kid, and to like all of my friends, RDJ was who we wanted to be. The guy that was with the hot chicks that had all of like the cash, like that was kind of like what we wanted to be like to be like the Iron Man. But going into it, that's kind of what we thought it was going to be. And then when we watched the movie, this dude is literally going through it, and kind of seeing him like in literal bondage and stuff like that, and then seeing that his tech was being used to induce harm onto others, which then leads him to want to shut down everything, was a very interesting take. And I mean, there's no other man that could play Iron Man like Robert Ken. So I mean, yeah.
I I grew up with the '90s Iron Man cartoon, and they never really explained how Iron Man's motivation was to become a hero. And seeing this movie and like you said, this whole like my weapons are now killing people. This needs to stop. Like that turn in the character was the first time I'd seen in like the history of the comics reading, the TV shows of an Iron Man that actually legitimately wanted to be a better person. And that was I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be unique because this is not the Iron Man that was captured by the Viet Cong during the Vietnam War. This is not the Iron Man that like whatever story they tell. This is Iron Man who's caught by a radical group of terrorists who are using his weapons to promote terror. And the Easter eggs aplenty with the 10 rings. And like, don't get me wrong, they definitely messed up the 10 rings in Iron Man 3, and then they kind of fixed it in Shang-Chi, but um, they're still like that first time you see the 10 rings, it was really menacing. And I was like, this is lots of fun. I like this a lot. And the fact that Obadiah Stane went from being just a crappy character to like a really good villain was
Yeah.
really fun. And it was Jeff Bridges. I mean, can't go wrong with
Right.
Jeff Bridges.
I feel like every role in this movie, was crushed. Pepper Potts. But like, first of all, I didn't read comics when I first saw this movie. So, but I was always like a big movie guy, always loved superheroes. So, like, I saw the trailers. I was like, this looks sick, and I remember when I saw it, I think I saw it like the weekend it came out. And uh, when when Tony Stark was in the fucking cave and he built an Iron Man suit to get himself out of it, that was like one of the most badass things I've ever seen in a movie. And I just knew we were in for a wild ride. And, Tony Stark was cool as shit. I also think, obviously there's a lot that went into Robert Downey Jr. taking the role. MCU is kind of the house that he built, but I do think that it really helped his performance in that like it wasn't like we've seen him in a ton of movies in recent years,
Yeah.
and there was no typecasting to be had, and he absolutely hit it out of the park. I didn't have the preconceived notion of Iron Man like comics, or I'd never watched the animated show. The most I knew about Iron Man was there was a Bape Iron Man sneaker that like I really wanted that was out of my price range. But I thought like that was so cool. And now looking that I do read comics, like I've never read an old Iron Man comic. I on my list though is Demon in a Bottle. Like I'm sober, so I always want to read that story. I just
Yeah.
sometimes I have a
Yeah.
tough time getting behind comics that are like a bit like older. I like the more modern stuff. But that movie, like was so successful. The MCU had hype just from that movie alone, and it cemented Iron Man as my favorite character in the MCU. Period, which is crazy to
Yeah.
say because I also really love Spider-Man, but and it's funny because like in the comics, like when you look at Marvel Comics and their sales, like Spider-Man's always the number one character. Captain America's usually up there too. And even now, like Iron Man comics don't reign that high, but when it comes to the MCU, I think he's most people's favorite character.
Yeah.
And it's 100% Robert Downey Jr. because all of his legal issues, all of his issues prior to that movie, he was pretty much blacklisted in Hollywood. And then he came out of nowhere and became one of the richest guys in Hollywood because he made the right business decision to jump on this movie that Tom Cruise abandoned because he didn't like how it was going, which is insane. The background behind what made this movie exist is insane.
Yep.
And I love so much that they made this work and they gave Robert the free reign to make Iron Man his character, which was way better than what the comic book version of Iron Man was, because comic book Iron Man was like an alcoholic Howard Hughes and he wasn't that fun. This one was, he's eccentric, he's sarcastic, he's a genius, but he's also kind of a douche. Like he's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Definitely a douche.
I love it, and they definitely made a fantastic story arc with Tony Stark throughout the entire MCU. Just every appearance he's in, you can see it's changing.
Exactly. It seems like they took a bunch of good parts from a lot of other characters, because in the ways that he's smart, he kind of reminds me of Reed a little bit, but then he also feel like I get some Bruce Wayne out of him as well, but then also get some kind of cockiness as well. So it's kind of weird how Feige kind of seemed like he was drawing certain parts out of each guy. And one of the things that I do love about Iron Man, and I don't know if they did this on purpose, but this is at least the way that I see it. Everything that goes wrong in the movie before Tony Stark always corrects in the next film. When you watch Infinity War and you see all of the stuff in his suit, which is my favorite suit. I have no idea why they went with that last suit in the game. Pissed me off. But anyways, everything is really
that
I
yellow.
did not like it.
It was. I didn't like the too much red in Infinity War. I thought the breakup with the yellow was fantastic. To me, just the final Endgame suit was my favorite Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
I like that Endgame suit, but what I don't like is I feel like it doesn't translate well on action. I'm a big action figure guy, but naturally on social media I'm sure you guys too, with what we all follow, I see a lot of action figure pictures and I appreciate them. I just don't think that suit looks good on an action figure, but I think it looks great in the movies.
Yeah, because and the Infinity War suit, to me, just the combat, and I know the Endgame suit wasn't really meant for combat, but that's the features of that suit was just beyond me. It was just insane.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, the Iron Man 1 suit will forever be one of the. Will forever be one of the greatest suits of all time. I do like the Iron Man 2 suit as well. I think that's an equal one, but great film.
I think the decision to show you from the ground up the suit being made is what made this movie feel so grounded and so realistic.
Yes.
You have one scene where he's building the arms, one scene where he's trying to fly for the first time. Showing the pieces is what made it believable. And then that way, when he's like, "Oh, I can fly now," then boom, now let's just montage of the suit getting drilled onto me. I'm like, okay,
so cool.
I can believe this now. I can see it.
Yes.